Welcome back to the Lenz's Comic Corner, Classics, Non-Classics. This is episode number 1555 and Doubleshot number 1449. Now, I do have at least two Marvel trades, both of whom are finales. Before I get those trades, one who happens to be a final trade for the series, Uncanny Avengers. Before I get to them, I'm going to get two issues that actually are not in the trade I'm going to discuss. And I'm going to be discussing issues 24 and 25. And these issues are Secret Empire tie-ins. Yes, it's a two-part known as Night Shift. The line for these issues are Rogue, Human Torch, Wasp, Dr. Voodoo, and Sippus. Yes. This is mostly put what they were up to during the events of Secret Empire. What were they up to? They actually were in New York. Yep, they're in New York, and they're dealing with the events of when the Darkhold took basically put Manhattan in a dark bubble and had people in New York stranded basically into this bubble until it was lifted at the end of Secret Empire. And what were they doing? Battling demons. And, of course, Quicksilver, who is actually outside of the bubble. Yes, Quicksilver's in the issue, except he's outside of the bubble. And they're basically doing heroics. That's mostly what they were doing. Of course, they also counter Scorpina. Yes, the daughter of Dr. Rakimi, I think I'd say pronounce her name. Yes, she is, if you don't know who this woman is, she is the female Scorpion. She first showed up back in 2000, I believe it's 2007, I believe it was. And we also appearance by classic Spider-Man villain, the Shocker. Yep, he's here too. Why? Because the villains basically are just doing their own thing. And in the first issue, first part ends with Dr. Voodoo being possessed. And then the very next issue, which is the 25th issue of this run. Yep, 25th issue. Oh, before I continue, I should point out, though, Gary Duggan is not the writer of these two issues. As a matter of fact, this is the writer who did these two issues, who did pretty much the rest of this from before it got ended in 2018. Actually, it was more like 2017. Yes, this is Jim Zeb. He took over from Gary Duggan in issue 24, and he made the book into issue number 30. Yep. So we deal with the possession thing, and of course, it looks like Shocker is working with them to take on these demons. Yes, Shocker is briefly a member of the Uncanny Avengers, well, the Unity Squad for a couple issues. Yep. And of course, then we see looks like Dr. Voodoo's actual spirit. They battle a demon, and that's mostly what they do here. Battle, like, besides battling a demon. And then, of course, then he gets freed, and we see cameos by Daredevil and the Defenders, along with Doctor Strange. Yeah, that's loosely tied into what happened in the Doctor Strange tie-in for this particular book. Mm-hmm. Yep. I think it ends basically saying that the storyline itself, this will continue in Secret Empire number 6. It's a pretty good two-parter. One thing I at least got to point out, though, about Secret Empire, despite the fact the event itself is, the main miniseries is pretty bad. Yes, it is really, really bad. But apparently, like, the people who wrote the tie-ins, they were a heck of a lot better than the main book. Yes, any book that was not written by Nick Spencer as an event was actually really good. This actually was a really good two-parter, good side magic stuff here. Alright, now moving on to the Uncanny Avengers trade, the final trade to collect issues from Volume 3, Stars and Garters. This collect issues 26 to 30. I initially thought this ended issue 28. I was actually off by a couple issues. Actually, there are two story arcs here. The first one is basically a three-parter, which I thought this actually was the finale for the run. It really wasn't. Now, Gems Up is the writer, you have Sean Inuski as the artist, who does pretty much all 5 issues in here, with Juan Ramirez, who does issue number 29. The first 3 issues pretty much deal with the finale, like what happened during the events of Secret Empire with Scarlet Witch being possessed, and then of course she gets freed. And of course this is basically, the first few issues are simply dealing with the aftermath of Secret Empire, where they're pretty much like, they're just dealing with, well, here's the thing. It's revealed in these few issues that the Unity Squad is squatting in the Avengers Mansion. Yep. They're just living there for a while. And then we have this lawyer come in. We have this guy come in, and basically who wants to talk to Johnny Storm. Johnny doesn't want to talk to him because it relates to the legacy of the Richards family. It turns out, though, they kind of declare Reed Richards dead. Even though there's been no body, except he's been missing. So he's legally declared dead at this point, though he came back, no problem. And he pretty much left everything to Johnny Storm. And Johnny Storm became a rich man, though they had to pay taxes like any other inheritance tax, basically. Yeah, this is normal standard antitrust stuff. Basically, if you get inheritance, you gotta pay a tax on it. And of course, Johnny said, "Look, why do I pay taxes? It's the U.S. government. What do you expect?" That actually is Jim Zub playing on the real-life antitrust law that's been existing, I believe, since the 1890s. I believe that's when the law was passed, because I think it was Teddy Roosevelt put that in office. Actually, I think it was either him or it was his predecessor, the one who got shot in 1900. But yes, the antitrust law is basically a law that taxes like trust funds, and where the government gets a small percentage of that trust fund. Not like the whole thing or 50%. Basically about 20-30% of it goes to the U.S. government. The rest goes to the person who gets it. And it's done for taxes. That is just my estimation. I'm purely guessing at that. If you want basically a full explanation of the antitrust law, read the actual law itself. It's been on the books since the early 1900s. So basically, what a Johnny Storm does with that money, he buys the Avengers Mansion. Yep, he buys it. Oh, by the way, with issue 28, Beast joins the team for the last couple issues of this run. Yep, Beast joins the team. Which is interesting, though, the fact he joins this team, because currently he's not doing, like, prior to this, the guy was doing, like, nothing. Like, what was he doing? Well, he was mostly investigating how to deal with the... Well, for the past couple years, he'd been trying to figure out a way to get rid of the Terrigen mist cloud that had been surrounding the whole planet. He'd been working that hard. And what happened in Humans vs. X-Men, that kind of in a way concluded that. That pretty much got rid of that little aspect. And I guess he was free, and he heard that Wonder Man was back, because at the end of Gary Duggan's run, in the last issue he did, because after he wrapped up the Red Skull stuff, he also wrapped up another plot of Recommender's run that was the whole thing of Wonder Man being in Rogue's head. So Rogue decided to kiss Deadpool, and that apparently brought out Wonder Man. Yep, that brought out Wonder Man. And then, of course, Deadpool left the team, and I think Beast came in as his replacement. And, when Beast came in, we had the last couple issues deal with the title of the story, Stars and Garters. This deals with the return of the Juggernaut. Yes, the Juggernaut. A character who had not been active very much the last several years. I'm trying to think. I think like the last time officially he showed up in the comic book prior to this. Oh, I think it had been a while. Because I don't think he showed up recently. No, not that I could think of. Let's see. Actually, he did. Yeah, miniseries recently. That was part of the Krakatoa stuff. Let's see. No, that's not it. Okay, here we go. So, his last appearance was in Iceman. That was his last appearance. Yeah, I think it was Iceman Volume 3, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was Volume 3 was his last known appearance of the Juggernaut. Yeah, that was his last appearance just prior to this. And, like, right after this, he popped up in Uncanny Avengers. Yeah, he popped up in Uncanny Avengers. Oh, I think. Oh yeah, he also popped up in Uncanny X-Men. Mm-hmm. Let's see if I can find the actual page here. Like, I know he showed up very recently. I know he had like a mini series. That can't be right. Yeah, because he showed up here. He showed up in Uncanny Avengers. He showed up in Uncanny X-Men. Oh yeah, it was actually the third volume for the series. I thought it was the. Oh yeah, because the first two volumes were a mini series. Yeah. So I think it was just after that particular issue he popped up here for this quick two-parter. Actually, it was like a three-parter. It started with issue 28, and then it wrapped up with issue 30. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, he had. It's something. It's weird though. It's like, okay, he pops up in X-Men, then he just. It actually pops up in the pages of. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, he pops up in Iceman, and then he pops up here for like one issue. Yep, he pops here just for this one issue, and. Yeah, because I think after this, he didn't do very much afterwards. No, not really. I don't think he did a lot after this. No. Like, it seems as though he pops up for this one issue just after he appeared in Iceman. Because I think he actually showed up in Uncanny X-Men. Yeah, he would show up in Uncanny X-Men just before this. And I think as soon as that wrapped up, he popped up in his own mini-series. I think that's been pretty much it for him. It seems like, yeah, that's kind of a weird thing. It seems like as soon as his miniseries wrapped up, that was like the last time anybody saw him. That was actually at the start of this year when we had that Juggernaut miniseries by Finn Season, which I have reviewed. So I think is like when it comes to his official appearances, I think like right after this, it was just Uncanny Avengers. That was his last physical appearance to date. Mm-hmm. Because that's the weird thing when it comes to this. Okay, yeah, oh, I thought he showed up there, but he also showed up, like, after, like, that issue. He showed up in Amazing Spider-Man. Well, he did recently appear in Amazing Spider-Man for Sinister War. And that's been it for the Juggernaut. He shows up for this issue here. It's mostly also we have the final issue where Captain America rejoins the Ross, the first time since the end of Volume 1. And that's been it for this particular volume. I gotta say, this stuff in here is actually pretty good. I'll give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Final thoughts on Uncanny Avengers Volume 3 and the series. First up, Volume 3. 3 was a really fun volume to read when it was coming out. Started in 2015, wrapped up at, I think, at the start of 2018. Yeah, I think that was pretty much the case. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because as soon as the series wrapped up, like, you probably think, okay, what happens next for the series? I think I heard initially that this series, along with U.S. Avengers, was going to go on hiatus. And I think Marvel's changed their mind because right after this particular series wrapped up, we had No Surrender. Yes, an excellent storyline that I love so much. No Surrender. By far, one of the best Avengers storylines of all time, in my opinion. Why, you might ask? Pure and simple, really, because it's so damn good. Yes, it's a storyline that spanned 16 issues, and this came right after the Worlds Collide crossover. And this is simply 3 writers writing this damn thing. Jim Zub was actually one of the writers, along with Al Ewing and Mark Waid. Al Ewing, just prior to this, was writing U.S. Avengers. And, of course, we had a new character named Voyager, who was a brand new character they just introduced here, which her character is amazing. I love the character of Voyager. Yep. And of course, after that, thanks to that particular series, we had No Road Home. We had the Quicksilver No Surrender series, which was really good. And that was the most recent appearance I could think of for Quicksilver. Well, prior to him showing up recently for the extra Krakatoa stuff. But the team itself was pretty much gone after this. But what happened to the members themselves? Well, as soon as the team disbanded, Rogue rejoined the X-Men. Didn't do very much with the X-Men. Well, she basically is currently part of Excalibur. She was part of Excalibur, and now she's part of the main team Avengers. Okay, what about the Scarlet Witch, for example? Well, as soon as this series wrapped up, she did... Oh, let me think here. I don't think she... as soon as this series wrapped up, she popped up, of course, in No Surrender, No Road Home. 2 really good stuff there. But after that stuff wrapped up, I'm trying to think here. I don't think she did anything. I think she did pop up for Secret Empire. Not Secret Empire. For Empire. And she later was apparently killed off at the end of the Hellfire Gala storyline that happened just recently. And now apparently Magneto is being investigated for her murder, though she later showed up alive. I thought that was kind of weird. In the case, Dr. Voodoo himself. Well, he shows up occasionally after that. I think he popped up, at some point in Doctor Strange after this. But aside from that, the guy has done jack frickin' squat. Wonder Man. Can't think of anything the guy has done since the series wrapped up. Because that's the weird thing that comes to Wonder Man. As soon as the series, wrapped up and right after the events of No Surrender, I don't think... Well, he did. Okay, he popped up in Empire. He showed up he rejoined the Avengers for Empire, but aside from that, I don't think there was anything else for him to do. As soon as basically No Surrender wrapped up, well, he did pop up for War of the Realms during the Mystery, popped up for Tony Stark Iron Man. He popped up recently in the pages. He popped up recently for an issue of Iron Man, but that's been simply it for him. Yeah, not a lot for the character per se. Beast, well, what he's been up to lately, as soon as this thing wrapped up, he also returned to the X-Men, where he's currently part of X-Force. That's what he's doing nowadays, okay? But what about Sinise, the woman who actually did form a relationship with Quicksilver? Yeah, she did nothing. Yeah, she didn't do anything. Yeah, it seems as though once this thing wrapped up, she popped up for a couple issues of Quicksilver Surrender, and that's been it for her. Yeah, her last appearance was 3 years ago. Yep, that was her last known physical appearance to date. Okay, but what about, let's say, Wasp? Well, she actually became part of the Age of Wakanda. Yep. And she was actually a supporting character in the Tony Stark Iron Man series, where they actually were a couple, and then, of course, Tony Stark had to end it because he kind of hinted that he was an artificial life form, and then they kind of got back together at the events of Iron Man 2020, but that's been it for Wasp. Yep. I think her rejoining the roster for this volume definitely was a good idea on the part of Gary Duggan to do, and this volume was just pure fun. I just loved it. And here's something weird, though. Only 2 crossovers in 30 issues that it was part of. First, it was Civil War 2, and then Secret Empire, and that was it. No other crossover was this part of. And you're thinking, really? Only 2? Yes, because the thing got canceled not long after Secret Empire wrapped up. That I didn't really understand why. Alright? Next up it is Guardians Team Up Volume 2, Unlikely Story. This collects the last 5 issues of Guardians Team Up, issue 6 through 10. Excuse me. Plus, it also includes Deadpool Team Up 883, which I believe this was the final issue of the Deadpool Team Up series, because here's the weird thing about that series. The first issue of that series was 899, and then, of course, it moved backwards. Yeah, it was kind of weird. I think it moved off backwards numbering from Deadpool 900. And this is actually one of the stories. You have Deadpool Team Rock Raccoon. We also had Drax team up with Ant-Man for an issue that loosely tied into what was going on in Ant-Man at that point, which I thought was really interesting. We had Nightcrawler team with Gamora. I thought was a really good choice there. Yeah, unlike the other ones, seemed like very interesting pairing. These are very odd pairings. Like I said, with Nightcrawler and Gamora for an issue. That was interesting. Issue 8 was Groot and Silver Surfer. 9 was, and this was by far the most weirdest team up that I think anybody never expected for Guardians team up. It was, get this, Spider-Man and Star-Lord. Like, who would have thunk that two characters who at this point in time had their books written by Chip Zdarsky, and they would have, like, a team up together. Now, who wrote these issues? Well, you have Billy Willingham, who wrote the first issue in here, which was Gamora and Nightcrawler. That's interesting. We have Nick Garibaldi and Paul Salir, who does issue 7. Ray Fox does issue 8. Javier Palillo does issue 9. And Tim Silva does issue 10. The artwork also multiverse. Diego Seto does issue 6. Sean Crystal issue 7. Bingo issue 8. However, Palillo, who's also the artist for issue 9. Artist and writer Mike Norton does issue 10. The cover art, this cover art here, that's Clayman's artwork. Yep, Clayman. Clayman and Ramil Fergiro. David Lopez issue 7. I should want to have a pair that did pretty much the interior, the cover, and was writing issue. Bango did the cover along with the interior artwork. Mike Norton did the cover and interior artwork with Martin Garcia, who is the colorist of issue 8. Yeah, but in the case of 883, like, what is that team up of? Well, Deadpool and Galactus. What would you expect? I gotta say, this actually was a pretty good fun set of stories to read, and my personal favorite of these two is Drax and Ant-Man. Who would have thunk, though, that an alien like Drax, so team up a guy who can shrink to 6 inches, or I know the one I really enjoyed in here was Spider-Man and Star-Lord. That I thought was really good. Gamora and Nightcrawler, I thought that was interesting, but it was my personal favorite of all these. I did enjoy it per se, but my personal favorites have been issues 7 and 9. I enjoy those. But yeah, give this book a 9 out of 10. Final thoughts on this very brief series. I don't really get why this series ended for. Yeah, it's one of those series that really kind of puzzles me of why Marvel ended. I mean, they end this book just prior to Secret Wars. And I kind of thought, though, they could have continued with this series even after Secret Wars, because everything else was still number one. I mean, why not have a side book where we have the Guardian team with Marvel superheroes? This was a really good idea. Why would you end a good idea? That's Marvel for you. They don't freaking care. Yep. But it's definitely a good series. I would definitely recommend it, per se. It's not that long of a series. And you can get through the series and trade pretty quickly, because only just 2 trades. And that was it. But the problem is, it's a team-up series, and team-up series have got a really bad reputation for it not lasting too long. And in case you're curious, though, was this the last ever team-up series that Marvel Comics ever did? No. Because, get this, approximately 4 years later, we had the 4th volume of Marvel Team-Up came out, and that was shorter than this. That was 6 issues. That was simply a series for Miss Marvel, where, like, in the first few issues, we had her team up with, of all people, Spider-Man, which that made total sense to do. Especially these two have teamed before. in Amazing Spider-Man Volume 3, Issues 7 and 8, and then, of course, had the second half of the series, her team with Carol Danvers. I get kind of the reason why they ended, because who else could she team up with? Like, those two made sense. Because they have excellent chemistry in the book. Yeah. But this, either of these were oddball pairings, but I kind of felt as though that Guardian Team number 7 should have been in the Ant-Man trade. Because it's set during the actual series. I don't really get why Marvel didn't include it for, but it's Marvel for you. Okay, so that's it for particular review. My next video I'm going to put up, which will be up soon, will be a review of the newest episode of One Piece. Okay, next video. Bye.